In a previous video, we've seen how to implement push notifications with Firebase Cloud Messaging and Xamarin.Forms, and we did it for Android. So now it's about time that we do the same for our iOS app. If you've been following my account, then you might have already seen the video about Android push notifications, of course, with Xamarin.Forms. I highly recommend watching that first. Even though maybe you're not implementing it in Android necessarily, just skip those bits. But there is some initial setup in there. I'm going to repeat some of it here. So you can also, if you followed the Android one, skip over the initialization part here. And also the most of the stuff that I'm following is from this blog post. It's on the Progress Telerik website, written by Leomaris Reyes. She's doing some great work out there. So thank you for that. I'll be following that, of course. I'll be going over that in this video, but if you want to follow along or maybe have some resource to read up on as well, you can find it below in the video descriptions. For now, let's hop over first to the Apple Developer Portal. So here I am in the Apple Developer Portal. You can find it at developer.apple.com. I think you need a paid account to be able to do this, but I'm not sure. So you would have to pay the $99 a year to actually be able to test and send the push notifications. Now, if you've been working with Apple releasing apps or push notifications before, then you might know that Apple has this love for doing all the kinds of things with certificates and pulling a certificate from your local machine and uploading that and get a new certificate, making it very complex. But now for the push notifications, they've implemented kind of like a more API key approach, which makes it a little bit easier. So let's show you how to do that. Here in this landing page, let's go to certificates, identifiers, and profiles. Now, there is some stuff in here. This is my actual personal account, so I'm sorry for some blurring that you might see from here. And here we have the certificates, identifiers, and profiles. And here on the left, you will find the keys. And those are keys for push notifications, but also other things. And you can add one by clicking the plus next to this header right here. And then you can see, you can give it a key name. So let's make this FCM push notifications. There we go. Now, there is a limited number of keys that you can create. So I think it's Apple's intent to be able to use these keys for all your applications, basically. This is just your key that authenticates your account to the Apple push notification servers. So, you can reuse it for every app, I think. And you have to click what you want to enable with this API key. So let's do the Apple push notification service here, enable that. And you can see there are some other things like device check. I don't even know what that is. Class kit, sign in with Apple, music kit, some other stuff. But we're just here for the Apple push notification service. So let's continue. Whenever we do that, we have to double check if we got the right thing. And if we want to register a new key, that's exactly what I want. So let's click register. It processes, and then I have to download a key. So that's kind of my API key. And you also find this key ID right here, which is the key ID that belongs to this API key. And you will also need your team ID, which is the thing that you can find here in the top right. So those are the things that you need to actually be able to send these push notifications. So let me download this file. You can see the download dialog here popping up. It will have that key ID in here as well, so you don't have to go looking for that. And now we have everything we need to hop over to the Firebase console and set up our iOS application there. Now here we find ourselves in the Firebase console. You can find it at console.firebase.google.com. If you want to know exactly how I've set up this project, then please watch that Android video that I mentioned earlier, because there I'm setting the project up from scratch. It's not a hard thing to do, but if you need a little bit of help, check out that video, because you can also see the Android app is already in here, so that is working. Now you can add the app. You can see it here. That's what I'm going to do. Add your iOS app to the same project. And you can still send separate notifications to people on the iOS app or people on the Android app. But you can also put it in a separate project if that's what you want. That's totally up to you. But I'm going to add the app here now through this same project. So here we can click add, and then we can click iOS. And now I need to register my app. And in this iOS bundle ID, you want to enter your bundle ID, your unique identifier for your app. So in my case, that's always NL for Netherlands, my last name. And I think I named this something like push notifications sample. So in a little bit we'll see if that matches the thing in our info plist. In this case for Android it's the same. We also need to match that, and then because this is needed to make that API key work, to make it all connect. So make sure that this matches. App nickname is just your friendly name for inside of this Firebase console. App Store ID, if it's published already, you can put your App Store ID in here and it will probably open up some magic and connections from here as well, but this is all optional, so you don't need to do that. Then we click register app, and then again we need to download a configuration file, which is in this case the Google Services info plist. So again, that's a plist with some metadata that we need to connect to this Firebase service from our iOS app. So let's download that as well, our Google Services info plist. There we go. We got that. Then we click next, because you will see some instructions now for, like in Xcode and whatever, add a CocoaPod. We don't need to do that because this doesn't take into account that we are using Xamarin.Forms, Visual Studio. So you can just click next, and then in our next step we can just say continue to the console, and we can now see we have two apps here at the top. We have the Android and the iOS app, so that is what we're after. Now before we go and move on, we want to go into the project settings to actually set up our iOS API key and actually be able to send push notifications from this Firebase console for the test messages, but also if you want to send push notifications manually through the console, then you can do that from here as well. So for that you can go here to the top left and click that little cogwheel right here. Again, there will probably be some blurring. If you are going to try to type over the API keys here and see if there's something that you can do with this, then I've blurred all the important parts out, but also I will wipe this project whenever I'm done with the video, so don't bother. And we go to project settings, and in here then we see the tab for cloud messaging. So let's go in there, and here we can see our iOS app. If we scroll a little bit down to the bottom, and you will see the APNS authentication key. So here we can upload that file, or you can still do it with these certificates that you can see right here. But we are going to do that with the auth key because that is just much easier. So let's just click upload here. And then in our downloads folder, there should be the, here we go, the auth key. So this is the other identifier that we need. So let's see if we can actually get that out of here. So in my case, 22 LFM, blah, 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 Control C. And open that file. So this is going to upload the file. My key ID is right here, and then my team ID, which I know by heart. Just kidding, I'm just copying that from somewhere else. So this is my team ID. So that is the ID that is linked to your account, and this is the ID that's linked to your key. And then inside of this file, there is the API key that it's going to use. Then simply click upload. It's going to see if that is all valid, if that all checks out. And then whenever it's done doing that, then you will see that the authentication key is added, and now we're able to send notifications from this Firebase console. If you watch the previous video again, here in the left, we can also find the cloud messaging. So we go to the cloud messaging service, and we can send our first message. So now this is all ready for us to send that first message. But first, we need to, of course, implement the push notification support in our iOS app. And voila, here we are in Visual Studio 2019 for Mac. You will notice, typically in my videos, I already have the iOS simulator up here. But this is a very important note. You can only test the push notifications from a physical device, so it won't work on your simulator. For Android, you can test it on the emulator as long as the Play Store is installed. For iOS, there is no App Store, so maybe there's the same link there, but you can't test it on the simulator. So very important, you have to test it on your physical device. Now, again, I've mentioned this a couple of times. If you haven't watched the Android video yet, I've done a little bit of work there, and I'm going to work with the same project in code that I've started for the Android project. But, the only things I did so far is set up all the Android stuff. And of course, install the plugin that we're using. So right click on the solution right here, manage NuGet packages, and we will see under installed that we have the plugin.firebase push notification. I'll mention it again. It has been updated last year at the time of recording, but all the code still works. So go check out if that is something that should worry you. If you're worried that it's not supported, then that's definitely a concern that you may have. But for now, the plugin works fine. Of course, there are other plugins. I think Shiny does a good job as well at this, and maybe there are others. So yeah, there's definitely that. So install that plugin if you haven't done so already. And the other thing that I just quickly want to point out is in our shared code, the app XAML CS. I've here set up a little event handler in our shared code to get the token, because if you register with the Apple push notification servers, just like the Android service, you will get a token back, and that is basically the token that is used to reach your device. So that is a unique identifier for your device, and that is where you'll be sending the notifications to. And to be able to send debug messages from the Firebase console that we've just seen, we need that token. So I'm just going to output the token here to a debug write line, so I can quickly copy that, put it in the Firebase console, and we can see that notification coming in. So that is what I've already set up. Now let's go dive into the iOS specific setup. Let's go into our solution right here and to our iOS project, and we're going to add a new file. So add existing file, there we go. And what we want to do is add that other file that we just downloaded, the Google Service Info plist thing, which has all the information about how to connect to the Firebase servers and whatnot. So let's just open that. Let's move it to this project because I don't need it for anything else. So the file is only here. There we go. And you want to make sure that the build action for this thing is a bundle resource. So in Visual Studio for Mac, you can just right click, go here, set the build action to bundle resource. There we go. For Visual Studio on Windows, you can go to right click properties, and that will take you to the properties screen, and there's a field for the build action, and you can set it there as well. I'm not entirely sure, but I think this has to be in the root of your project and not in the resources folder, else it won't work. So make sure that you put it in the root of your project right here. Now in our regular info plist, there is some things that we need to do as well. So let's open this up and let's open the graphical editor right here. And all the way down to the bottom, we can say click background mode, so enable background modes. And the thing that you want to find here then is remote notifications. So you need to enable those remote notifications. This lets the app know that it needs to enable all the bits to be able to receive remote notifications. So we can just do that by one check. That's pretty awesome, right? Now let's go back to the source of our info plist, because in the background, the info plist is just a XML file with keys and values, and we need to add a custom value here. So let's go here and add a new entry. Here is a little plus sign, so let's do that. And this custom property is called Firebase app delegate proxy enabled. There we go. And as a value, we have to say no, which is the equivalent to false, basically. So this has to do with some Firebase configuration, and we do not want to use that proxy, so we set it to no. Please check out the documentation that I've linked below for what this does exactly. Maybe for your case you want to enable it, but in this case we are not going to use it, so just set it to no. I think it has to do with the token registration and whatnot. So, but the way this plugin that we're using is set up, we do not want to use this proxy setup, so let's simply set it to no. Now while we're here, we probably also want to double check our bundle identifier. So this has to be the same thing that we've configured in our Firebase console. So this has to be the reverse domain thing, or unique identifier for this app. That is the thing that you want to set up here. It has to match the one that is in your Firebase console. So double check that. And then the last thing that we need to do, well, there's two things maybe. In our solution, there's also under the iOS project, a entitlements plist, where we also have to say that we want to do the push notification. So it has this source editor, but here at the bottom, you also have the visual editor, because it's only checkboxes. So if we scroll down, we will find the push notifications here as well. If you want to do all kinds of other things, sign in with Apple, we've seen that in the developer portal as well, do all kinds of other things, then you have to get that entitlement too. But let's now click the enable push notifications. And when you do, you also have to make sure back in our info plist in the graphical editor, that you set up the automatic provisioning, or you can do the manual provisioning as well, but the automatic provisioning is much easier. So let's just enable that, select my team, and then it gets the right certificate and profile, because that also has to do with the entitlements. So this basically has something to do with tying it all together, signing your application the right way, and whenever this is set up, it will go out through the APIs now to the Apple developer portal and do all the hard stuff for you and get that back to your Mac. So it's just setting this up, and whenever it does, then I can just start running this application, and we can go into the Firebase console and actually get some push notifications on our device. Now, just like on Android, we need a little bit of initialization code on the platform project. So let's close the info plist. We don't need this app XAML, and let's go into our solution and into our app delegate, because that is where our iOS app is bootstrapped. And here, well, before the return, let's just add the Firebase push notification manager. This is something that comes with the plugin manager. So let's add the right using with IntelliSense. There we go, using plugin Firebase push notification. Dot initialize, and this is the same initialize that we've seen in Android. So here we have a couple of overloads. You can set the custom push notification handler, do the auto registration to true, notification user categories. This is all a little bit more advanced stuff, so if you want to know about that, please let me know down in the comments and I'll be sure to answer you or make another video. For now, I'm just going straight to just sending a simple push notification. So here we have the initialize, and then we just pass in the options that we get from this finished launching method. And the auto registration is true. It's also the default value, but let's set it to true. And this is all that's needed for the initialize. This is also the line that will pop up, I think, the dialog for requesting the permissions to actually send push notifications to the user. So you don't need to worry about that as well. Now, there is some other methods that we need to override, so don't be scared. I'm going to copy some code from off screen here that, because it's a lot to type. So let me just paste it in and walk you through it. Here we go. And here, this is overrides from our app delegate, right? So this is just methods that are inside of our iOS app, which is registered for remote notifications. And we're just going to pass that to our push notification manager to let them know that we are registered and good to go, and we are passing the device token so that it can wire up all the configuration here. Also, whenever it's failed to do the remote notification registration, then that's something we want to know as well. Then maybe the push notification manager will let us know in a dialog or maybe in the application output. And this last one, that is a very interesting one. So did receive remote notification, and we can see the comments here because I'm just pasting this from the documentation from this plugin. We need this to receive notifications in the foreground. Let's fix this typo right here. There we go. On iOS 9 and below. And this is to receive notifications in the background for any iOS version. So note that this is triggered for like 2 scenarios where you actually get it in the foreground whenever it's for iOS 9 and for in the background. So you can also use the push notifications in the background and just refresh your data basically. So this does some things there. A little bit more advanced stuff, so don't worry about it, but it's just good to have it here, especially for this one, because this is basically needed for whenever we receive a push notification in the foreground on iOS 9 and below, and we want to actually show it to the user, because this probably passes it on to an event that is triggered by the plugin for the push notification, so that we can access an event in the shared code, and that will be triggered through this little piece of code here. Don't worry about it. I'll show you how to set that up. Actually, let's just do that right now. So on iOS, maybe that wasn't clear from the way I was saying it. On iOS, typically you only get the notifications when the app is in the background or closed or whatever. But if you get a message in iOS whenever the app is in the foreground, then you as the developer basically have to handle that. So let's just for now pop a little simple dialog whenever the notification is coming in. But typically, maybe you want to do something else. Maybe do it with a toast that's in the Xamarin Community Toolkit, or handle it some other way. But for now, we're just going to do a simple dialog. So let's go over to our solution, and And now I'm going to go to our shared code, our main page, and go to our main page XAML.cs. There we go. And let's wire up here the cross Firebase push notification.current. There we go. So let's IntelliSense at the right using plugin Firebase push notification. We'll see that come up right here. And this is like, this is just a static class that has the current instance of that class. And here we can access all the shared code things, so we don't need to worry about our platform specific implementation anymore. And here we can see on notification action, deleted, error opened, received. Make sure that you check out the documentation for all of these events, because not all are supported or their behavior is different depending on what platform you're running on. I think, for instance, the on notification deleted is only handled on Android, and the on notification received is only fired for iOS whenever the app is in the foreground. So those kinds of things, make sure to check that out in the documentation. Now, for this case, we want to know on notification received, because that is the thing that we're after for iOS. So let's type +is and then press tab, and Visual Studio will automatically generate this method for us. So there we go. And now I can just say display alert. And let's say, actually, does the E, so with E, I can get the event arcs for this Firebase push notification, so I can see the data that's coming in. So actually I can show the data with this. So let's say notification, and let's say data, like this, data is e.data. Data is actually a dictionary of sorts, I guess. A dictionary of string and object. So because you can also send extra data with your notification, right? So let's make this data, and I can access it like this then, because this is a string key. My data, let's do something like that. And there we go. I'll get back later to what that exactly is, and at the OK button right here. So that's that, and I think we're then done to actually start running our app on my device and send a push notification from the console, and so let's see what it does. So here we are with the Firebase console on the left, exactly where we left it, with the page where we can send a test notification. And on the right you can see my actual physical device. I've started running the application, the automatic provisioning worked, and I have to say now if I want to allow push notifications, yes or no. So you can see the permissions for this is automatically handled by the plugin as well. So let's allow this one, there we go. And if I put this into the background, and I now go actually to my Visual Studio, because remember that little thing that we needed to do here in our app XAML.cs to get that token. That is the token we need now to send a debug message. So here in my application output, let's scroll here. It's a little bit small, sorry for that. Here at the bottom, we need to copy this token right here. So let's do that and go back to the console. And then I can say here test. And then my favorite test message of all time, have you subscribed to my channel yet? Well, have you? Maybe a good time to do so now. And then I can send this test message. You can see the one from Android is still in here. I can add a new one by clicking here, pasting it in here, do the little plus sign, and whenever I click test, then our push notification should come up. There we go. We have a push notification on iOS. And whenever I can play with this like you can on iOS to, have a little bit more time reading this, or I can push it and then it brings us back to the application. So that is cool. Now that it's in the foreground, I already mentioned also in the Android video, this UI for the Firebase console is a little bit weird because there's more options down here at the bottom. Actually, this is not specifically for sending test notifications. You can also send your regular notifications. So you can target the user if the app, and you can select an app. So you can see we can send something to the iOS or the Android app, or both, because we can also do an and we can do another condition right here. So that is cool. So now we're going to send a notification to all users of the iOS app, which is me. Then you can do next, you can schedule it, then you can do next. But here are some extra options that you can configure, and you can configure those, and they will be used also whenever you send this test notification here at the top. So here you can see that key and that value. So remember when I implemented some code, let's go back to Visual Studio, that I implemented some code in our main page where I want to display the alert. with the data that comes from the key my data. So I can do that here. So let's make this my data, and I'm going to say hello from data. And that should pop up in my dialog. Now also you can here set the sound. And whenever this is enabled, the phone will also vibrate and make a sound whenever it's coming in. And you can also set the iOS badge. Whenever we enable that, we can set a count. And then we can, have that little badge with that round thingy on top of our app icon show up as well. And the expires, lets it expire after a certain amount of time, then the notification will go away automatically whenever you have some time sensitive notification. So with this new My Data, let's go back up to our notification and our test notification. And whenever we send that, I think this top one was the right one. And whenever we test that, we should see the alert come up. And here we have hello from data. So this is also how you can push that data through your notification. And whenever a notification is coming in, when the app is in the foreground on iOS, this is how to show it. If you've watched the Android video and now this one, you know how to implement push notifications for both Android and iOS, but still running in the Xamarin.Forms application. So on iOS, you need to do a little bit more setup. It's of course always with Apple stuff a little bit hard to get the provisioning right and get it actually running on a physical device with the automatic provisioning and figuring out the certificates. If there is any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be trying to help you, or join the Discord server where other people can help you as well. But that piece is a little bit hard, and the rest, this plugin makes it so easy to implement these push notifications also on iOS. Now there is a lot more to push notifications. You can go to a certain page straight there, or you can do background refreshes, or maybe you want to know something else about Firebase entirely. Please let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can make a video just for that. Other than that, please like this video, because especially the ones about push notifications, a lot of effort has gone into that. So please like this video. Of course, if you've actually liked it, and if you want to support my channel a little bit more, please consider joining the channel for a small monthly fee, or at least subscribe to my channel and click that little bell to receive push notifications whenever a new video comes online. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next video. Keep coding.